Hey y'all, today I'm going to show you guys how to do a sourdough pizza crust. I have our discard that we made yesterday. It's actually still pretty bubbly. You can see I could actually make bread with this. It's not quite past its prime, but we're going to use this anyway. I did feed my other starter and it is starting to look bubbly as well, and it's going to be ready to go or ready to put up. I think I am going to go ahead and bake a loaf probably with this tonight, but you can see this one is just about at its prime. So today for this recipe, we're going to use 225 grams of starter. I'm going to make it in this clear glass bowl. So we're going to go in with that. One thing you never want to use with sourdough is metal. It's better if you can use silicone or glass, wood, but metal is not the best for this. So we've got our discarded sourdough here, or discarded starter here. We're gonna go in with 170 grams of spring water. And we're going to dissolve this. One thing you never want to do is you never want to mix anything on your digital scale. It can mess up the measurements, so you'll want to take that off. I'm going to let this sit for just a second, and I'm going to check on a bread that I'm finishing up that's coming out. We want to make sure that our starter is completely dissolved. So it's okay if we just let it sit for just a second. We're letting it get milky. You can see what this looks like here. So now we're going to be ready. The next step, we're going to re-tear our scale. And we're gonna go in with 7 grams of sea salt. Okay, we'll mix this in. And then our last step, we're gonna start with 300 grams of unbleached flour. I do use quite a bit more in this recipe, but I'm gonna put that in by feel during the kneading process. So we're gonna re-tear and we're gonna start with 300 and see how that looks. Okay, and now we are done with our scale. So let me move that out of the way. So we're gonna come in here and give this a nice stir. I'm gonna knead this till it feels right, somewhere around 3 to 5 minutes. It doesn't take long. I don't even know that I've ever kneaded for 5 minutes. And then after that, we're gonna put a cover on it. We're gonna let it sit for about 30 minutes. And then I'll come back and usually do at least one stretch and fold. And then I'm gonna let this sit for at least 7 hours on the counter. After that, you can either make this into pizza, you can make it into some garlic sticks, which is what I did today to go with dinner. We're having leftovers for dinner, so I'm making some fresh garlic sticks. And then if we have any left over, the kids will probably take that for pizza sticks for lunch tomorrow. Okay, so you can see this is a little bit on the sticky side. It's not quite dried, and it's gonna really stick to our hands if we don't add some more flour. So I'm just gonna take a 1/4-ish cup of flour and sprinkle that kind of in there and on top. And now I'm gonna go in and we're gonna start kneading this. And I don't like it to stick to my hand, so I'm gonna add flour as I knead it so that it's not sticking to my fingers quite so much. So see how that's starting to stick? I'm gonna put a little more flour. Just a little bit at a time. You don't want to overdo it and dry out the dough. The measurements on this are going to be fairly forgiving. You should end up with kind of a soft texture. And like I said, this is going to ferment for 7 hours. So it shouldn't end up too dry as long as you don't really overdo it on the flour. We're going to kind of scrape our edges of our pan, our bowl, as we go, so we don't end up with a bunch of dry flour all over the place. Now you can see over here, this is one that I did this morning, and I have split that out. I'm going to show you how I did a breadstick. With this, I did garlic, olive oil, and a little bit of pepper, fresh cracked pepper, and a little bit of parsley. And I baked that off at 450 for 10 minutes. It's gonna go 10 to 15 minutes. This particular dough is not gonna end up super golden brown. It's a light dough. You're never gonna get that deep golden flavor. So you can see this kind of has a good spring to it. It's getting soft. It's starting to get sticky again. I don't want to add any more flour to this. So this is at a good stopping point. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to cover this up and I'm going to let this sit for about 30 minutes to an hour. And then we're just going to do one stretch and fold. And what that entails is you're going to take the dough and you're going to pull it on all sides like this, and that's a stretch and fold. And you're going to want to do at least one of those. You can do 2 if you have time. If not, it's no big deal. So after 7 hours, this is what our dough is going to look like. It's nice and soft. It's pillowy. And we are going to put it on a floured surface and roll this out. So I have this one ready to go. Let me move this aside to sit. Now the dough that I just made, that you just saw me make, we're not gonna eat that today. I'm gonna put that in the refrigerator for another time, maybe tomorrow, sometime over the weekend. It will stay good for several days and ready to go. When you've let it go into the refrigerator and get cold, you're gonna let it sit and warm up for, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes or so before you try to roll it out. That way it has a chance to kind of come up to temperature and not be quite so elastic, because this dough is going to spring back on you just a little bit, and that's okay. Now the finished product that I'm going to show you in just a minute, that one I made on a baking stone. This one we're going to do on an olive oil cast iron. Okay, I have some cheese sticks ready for you in just a second.
Cheese sticks?
Mm-hmm. Give me just a minute and I'll cut them. It's hot, don't touch. Okay, so this is oiled. Now I'm gonna put our dough on here and we're gonna spread it all the way to the edges. You want to be careful on this part to make it as even as possible all the way to the edge of the pan, but not to put a hole in it. So we're going to do it just like this. Then we're gonna take just a fork and you're gonna poke holes in it because otherwise you're gonna end up with some giant bubbles and we don't want that. So we're gonna take olive oil. We're gonna take olive oil, pour just a little bit. And we're gonna, I need a little bit more, not quite enough. We're gonna oil our dough. I'm gonna put my garlic on the bottom before I put the cheese because garlic burns fairly easily. We don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna let the cheese kind of protect this a little bit. So we've got the garlic on next. Then we're gonna crack some black pepper on top. If you don't have fresh garlic, you can use granulated garlic. And that's what I got out here on the side so you can see. This will work just fine in a pinch, no big deal. And then also you can use either fresh or dried parsley. I'm going with dried today. And then you can use mozzarella cheese on this. That works out great. It's much more melty, like a pizza cheese. You can make this into a pizza. You would make this the same way. It's just instead of the olive oil, you're gonna put a pizza sauce and then go in with your cheese and whatever toppings you like. I'm not gonna overdo it on this Parmesan because this is a very salty cheese. So this is now ready to go into our 450-degree oven for 10 minutes. And let me bring this back and I'll show you the finished product. So this is finished right here. We're gonna go ahead and cut this up and I will show it to you. This is not a super cheesy bread, but it is so nice and garlicky, and I really enjoy this flavor. We're gonna eat this with some leftover spaghetti and some salad tonight. It's not super cheesy, but it's super, the crust on this is really nice. And it's nice and garlicky, so a great garlic bread. But like I said, this comes together in not too long. It takes about 7 hours to get the dough ready to go. And then it's only 10 to 15 minutes in a 450-degree oven. You can use a baking stone. You can use a cast iron skillet. You can bake this on a cookie sheet, whatever you have, a pizza pan, and they come out great every time. Thank you.